Everybody, welcome to our weekly free safety training, kind of a general overview of training under the OSHA standard. I am getting everything ready to get started. We will be, I know on the title it said eye and face protection. I'm looking at that right now. What we're going to do is we're going to cover respiratory protection, and we may touch on the eye and face protection.
We're gonna do
So that is what we're going to do today. Eye and face is kind of a small topic that needs to be covered in a broader, um, in a broader way, and that pretty much is going to be under the personal protection equipment training. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to get into the respiratory protection standard, which may cover a little bit of the additional PPE required. So this particular training topic is extremely important if you are using respirators at your job site, whether it be full face, half mask, supplied air, even a dust mask. You got to make sure you're using the proper type, and that is what this training pretty much focuses on. Is you got to know what you're protecting yourself from in order to put on the proper personal protection equipment. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So those of you who have just joined us, my name is Jesse with ROI Safety Services. The purpose of this weekly free training is to give you, whether you're a safety manager, a business owner, or you just want to know, hey, what do I need to do to keep myself safe and my employees or fellow employees safe, because we really don't know what we don't know. And this is a common occurrence over the years that I get from, surprisingly, I get still to today, to this day, when I go to clients and do training. And, it's very common for somebody who's been at that company for years, for literally decades. Wow, I've been here for this long and I've never heard anyone talk to us about wearing a respirator. And I've been using the wrong respirator in the paint booth for the last, 5 years or whatever. And that's common. This is something that happens pretty frequently. So it's scary because this is most of this information is readily available on Cal OSHA, Fed OSHA. It's not a secret. We cover Fed OSHA standard in our training on this podcast, or video, whatever you want to call this. My purpose is just to get this information out and to help folks out as best as I can as a safety professional. So we don't have much bells and whistles. I'm not going to show a lot of videos. I just want to get right down to it. But I do want you to take a look at our video interview I did a few weeks ago with Amanda Deering. It was a really, really awesome video talking about workers' comp. And she is a workers' comp attorney. No matter what you're doing in this industry, listen to what she has to say. It's coming from an attorney. It's coming from somebody who is on the other side of that letter that you get, that subpoena or that lawsuit. And so those are the people I want to listen to, especially in this stage of my career. Those are the ones who are really making things not too go well for a business owner. OSHA's got, they'll give you a hard time. Don't get me wrong, but a letter from an attorney is some serious business. So don't ever get there. And this type of training that we're going to do today will prevent these kinds of things from happening. There is no excuse anymore for a business not to protect their employees. Just the other day, I was driving down Yorba Linda Boulevard, and I looked over, and I saw this truck, big construction truck. They were roofers, and I looked up, and I saw about 4 roofers on the roof over 30 feet up in the air. I took pictures, and um, they had no fall protection, no rails. They were just straddling up on some scaffolding that just didn't. The scaffolding was just not up to where it needed to be. So I did speak to whoever I can get a hold of, and you know how that goes. They just kind of brushed it off, and that's disappointing. And I even contacted the company, and I have not heard anything back from them. And this isn't just me being a professional or being the safety police. That's not the role of a safety person. It's not to be the safety police. Police is because we care about people. I don't want to see somebody falling 30 floors or 30 feet onto the asphalt. Nobody does. And it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. So we want to help people, and when I see that, I know that that's not just the one situation that has occurred, and that's a practice. That's something they're doing every day, and those are the things that we want to prevent. Education and training is key, and responsibility. So we must be responsible for our safety. So that's a whole other topic, but I'll touch on it throughout this training. So again, thank you for joining me. My name is Jesse, and we will get started. So the training that I use is I primarily focus on using OSHA 10, OSHA 30 outreach training material that we get from our training classes when we do our outreach training. So I think that material is pretty good. It's pretty reliable, and I want to give you what OSHA is actually covering, during my training and my trainers who go through the outreach training courses. And so it's pretty good stuff. I am certainly not going to cover all of this. I'm going to give you the really big highlighted 30,000 foot action items that you need to know about, and you need to take action and implement within your organization. Okay, that's what this training is geared for. It is not the type of training that I will be doing if I went to your facility and did this sort of training. Okay, that's why you can see I'm skipping through a lot of this stuff, because I probably went over it already in terms of your responsibility and your role in implementing these safety preventative measures. Now, this is where I want to get started. So anytime you have an employee, okay, anybody that works for you, that you pay, and you own a business, or they work for you, and you're a manager of that business, whether it's construction, general industry, or mining, food industry, you name it, you must ensure that that employee is working safe. That is your job if you're a manager. If you're a business owner, it's your job and your responsibility. So this is kind of this is the guideline for you to take. If you have an exposure to any of your employees at a high concentration, and they are not using and it's hazard or toxic or whatever the case may be, you need to even know that. If you're running a paint booth, if you're running sandblasting, or if you're dealing with nitric acid or hydrofluoric acid, anything that can cause a respiratory or any kind of problem like that to your employee, you must protect them. You must protect them, and you must do it effectively. And so that's the distinction, is it must be effective. You can't just go to Home Depot and pick up any respirator off the rack and hope for the best. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. You need to have the proper respirator. And how do you do that? Well, we're going to get into that. So respiratory inlet covering, the portion. So this is basically covering a respirator. I don't need to go deep into respirators. It's the thing that goes over your mouth that shields or filters the air that you're breathing. Okay, and there's many different kinds. You have helmet, hood, suit, mouthpiece, respirator with a clamp. There's all different kinds. And that is all part of the assessment and the responsibility you need to take as an owner, whatever your role is. If you're the one even wearing it, you need to make sure you have the right kind. And you have a quarter mask, a half, a mouth. They don't even make those anymore. And full face. That's how old a lot of this training is when we utilize OSHA's training courses. And then you have the hoods, helmets, loose fitting. Nobody really wears those. The full bodysuit, I think I see more frequently. The half mask and the full face, I've never seen a quarter mask. So it's pretty much going to be the half and the full. That's pretty much what we're seeing today. And then you got the hood, the full suit, the helmet, and you have the filter. Okay, this filter is what filters out the air that you're sucking in with your lungs most of the time, or if you have supplied air. But most of us are going to be using these filters. You suck in the ambient air. It doesn't give you air. It only filters the ambient air. And I laugh a little when I say that, but I from time to time will encounter somebody that thinks that it supplies them air somehow, and that is really scary. And that's why training is so important. I trained some folks over at I'm not going to tell you what wastewater treatment district it was, but we had an individual who thought that when they go down into that sewer, all they needed was that half mask and they were going to be just fine. And it was like, I had to explain to that person, no, this is not going to help you 100%. You need to know the risk at which you're going down into that sewer. Is there going to be enough oxygen for you to breathe? Is there going to, what are the hazards? Do you have an air monitoring device in there? So all of these things need to be considered when you go into a confined space like that. And then you have the high efficiency particulate air. This is basically your HEPAs, and this is pretty much where you're gonna find these anywhere. Granger, I think Home Depot even carries these, but you got to make sure you have the right one. Just don't go pull one off the shelf. You need to know, and that takes some research. Not a lot, but it does take some research. These half masks are pretty effective. They have a pretty good filtering of 0.3, which is pretty good. So this will protect you from most particulates. Then you have the canister kinds will protect you against various kinds of acids and other types of hazards. It has a absorbent or a catalyst system in there. And again, I'm not going to go into super detail. I'm just doing the overview. The service life of these respirators can vary, and there's so many variables when it comes to how frequent you should swap these out. I don't think anybody is going to tell you you got to do it every 10 days, every 30 days. It varies depending on your use and a lot of other different factors. Do part of your training once you decide to get training and actually have somebody train you. This can't be done on an online video. This needs to be done at your location, going over your site-specific risk. Why are you using a respirator? What is the purpose of the respirator? What chemicals are you using? How do you know you have a breakthrough? How do you know you have failure? These are things a video is not going to teach you, because the video may be covering just regular caustic soda, and you might be dealing with, hydrofluoric acid, totally different chemical, even though they're acids, totally different. So you need to be able to have site-specific training, and I say that in all my videos. Site-specific training is key. You need to do site-specific training. Don't mess around with these videos. These videos will in many ways cause more harm than good, because we think, oh, they just saw the video, they're okay. And I'm not naming any video brands or anything like that. I think all the videos that are out serve a purpose. They are supplemental training. You got a video, you got your hands-on, PowerPoint, you got your hands-on trainer, and then you go out and do the work, and then you get coached. You follow this flow of training, and you will have, I promise you, if you follow a good flow of training the way ROI does it, you're not going to have any injuries If your employees are trained, competent, and qualified, you will have zero injuries. I promise you. That's just the way it works when you have competent, qualified people who know what they're doing. The challenge I see over the years, and it proves out every time, injuries are caused from people being untrained, incompetent, and not qualified, and just not, you know, they shouldn't be doing the job in many cases, and because for various reasons. And so that's from 30 years of working in the industry and seeing fatalities and seeing people get hurt. Um, complacency, just not having enough training, not being responsible. There's so many different contributing factors, but one of the main, in my opinion, root cause is just a lack of training, a lack of accountability and responsibility. Filtering face pieces, of course, everybody sees these today, right? We're wearing them everywhere. These are not very effective when it comes to a virus. Um, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it's a dust mask. Even the other N95s, this would be more effective than a dust mask. This actually does purify the air. Um, this right here, a dust mask, if you're wearing one of these and you think it's going to prevent a virus from breaking through, it's not going to be effective. But this is much more effective. I'd love to see everybody wearing these in the office. Maybe some of us should. But here's the APR. These are air purifying respirators. They will purify the air. They will supply. No, these will not supply air. They will run air through the filter right here, and they are very effective. They do not supply air. And then you have positive pressure respirator. Is when a respirator in which the pressure inside the respirator inlet covering exceeds the ambient air pressure outside the respirator. Okay. Power air purifying respirators, PAPR. These are wonderful, wonderful respirators. If you find yourself needing one throughout a good chunk of your day or long periods of time, this is a great air purifying respirator. Again, it does not supply air. I like PAPR. It's very effective. They are expensive, but if you're going to be sandblasting or doing something all day long, it's a great idea. And then you have atmosphere supplying respirators, SCBAs, SARs. Those are exactly what they are. They say they are. They provide continuous flow, on demand, and pressure demand air into your lungs. They are very effective. They are very expensive. SARs are very expensive. These are not cheap, but the benefit is tremendous. These are going to be primarily used for people working in extended periods of time in concentrations that are way above the permissible exposure level, or they just are not sure of what the atmosphere contains. And so they put on a supplied air. And then you have a self-contained breathing apparatus. These are primarily going to be used for rescue. Then you have your escape bottle. Everybody needs one of these if you're going to be doing any kind of extended work inside of a confined space or an environment that could be hazardous. Unpredictable situations that could occur. This is common practice for any kind of air purifying respirators to do a user seal check. I'm not going to get too much into that. That's site specific. That QNFTs are site specific. Fit factors are site specific. So these are things that each of you watching this video, wherever you work, you must have a site specific training plan. I am not that source, or this video is not that source for that training. This video is to give you an idea where to go, how to manage it, and tools to at least give you a good assessment. Hey, I might need to get some help in here to get the right kind of respirator for my process I'm having. It is a process. You're not going to be able to watch one or two videos to figure this out. They will help, but you really do need to have somebody from the outside come in, a professional, and do a proper assessment when it comes to respirator usage. It's that important. It's not something you want to mess around with. So IDLH is immediate danger to life and health. So this is an environment that can cause death immediately. Some of the common IDLHs are going into a tank where the oxygen is below 19.5%. That's just one example. And then forget about the respirators, forget about all that stuff for now. There's another requirement. You must be fit to wear a respirator. You just can't slap a respirator on anybody. Not everybody has not everybody's physically fit enough to put on a respirator. There is a demand on your cardiovascular system that you need to know can handle the extra stress. It's not a lot of stress in most cases. But let's say you have asthma or you have some other pre-existing respiratory issue or a heart issue that anything can trigger some arrhythmia or something that could cause you to pass out. You want to get that fixed or you want to get it looked at. Okay, not everybody can put on a respirator, just slap one on and go to work. You got to have an evaluation by your occupational health care. So the process is very simple. Identify, hey, I'm going to need a respirator. How do you do that? Well, you have a hazard. You look at the safety data sheet. You realize that, hey, man, this stuff's pretty bad. It's going to kick up some nasty whatever. And then maybe do some air monitoring to verify that you're above the permissible exposure level. And then you determine, okay, yes, we do need a respirator. And then you identify who's going to wear it. And then you send them to the clinic and have them do a pulmonary function test, a fit test, and an overall physical fitness test. All of those things are required for that person to wear a respirator. Like I said, this is not for everybody. You just can't slap on a half mask or a full face to Joe the painter out there who's been smoking for 30 years and expect him to be fine when he puts it on. He might be, but you're not giving him a good shot of success. He might be keeled over by after lunch if he's not physically fit. And that's going to be on you as the business owner. So make sure that you are doing everything to ensure that this individual is physically fit. It's on you. It's your responsibility to do this. If you're the owner or the business or you're the manager of EH&S, whatever your role is, if you're assigning these respirators, you need to make sure you're doing everything the proper way. And then you need to have a documented respirator program. These are fairly simple. There's just a few elements that need to be put in place. But unfortunately, this respirator program, it does require a lot of steps. So this is one of the few OSHA programs that actually requires follow-up and a lot of documentation and assessment. So this is not something that you can just download from UCLA or Harvard website, which they have really good programs that you can copy. They're really good, but do you understand them? Do you know how to implement them at your site? That's the challenge. That's where you need a professional. That's where you need somebody like ROI to come in and walk you through the process, because there's some pretty significant steps here that you don't want to overlook. And there are some training requirements and documentation requirements that need to get done at least annually, and when there's some changes made to the program. So again, high level stuff, guys. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty here. Then you go into the selection process. What respirator do I need? What's the risk? What type is best for my employees? Here's some more examples of some IDLH. And again, those are things that need to be done during the assessment. Okay, where are we at here? Then you have different types of filters. That's one of the benefits of having a local rep, like a Granger rep or a 3M rep, is they can help you with this process. It's not always easy, and I do recommend that you reach out to a local rep once you identify the hazard and call. 3M is a pretty good resource depending on what part of the country you're in. I've always gone with 3M because they're always readily available. North is North is I don't even know if they're around anymore, but North has been okay. North's respirators are top notch, best respirators out there, but they're not always easy to get a hold of like 3M. 3M is always easy to get a hold of. They just have a lot of good resource, and they'd be willing to come out and do an assessment for you. I don't know if they do that in every area. They used to do it. I don't know about it anymore. Again, I'm not going to get into this part of the training. This is for on-site, site-specific training. I had talked about the medical evaluation. It is a challenge if you have pre-existing physical problems. I have had people fail, and I've had, it's unfortunate, but it does happen. So not everybody is going to pass the pulmonary function test. That's where you breathe into the tube at the clinic. And if they don't pass it, they don't pass it. They're going to refer you to their own medical doctor. So that typically works out where, let's say you send Joe to the clinic, Joe fails. That doctor, that occupational doctor, is going to refer Joe to his own primary care physician. Joe's got to go see him. And then if that doctor approves that he's fit to use a respirator, Joe has to go back to the other doctor and get final approval from him. I have only had this happen a few times. It's very rare. It does happen. Um, as a safety professional, I would be very concerned about Joe wearing a respirator, even if his own doctor approves it, unless it was an anomaly or he dealt with that problem. But I would be very cautious about Joe using a respirator, and I would keep a close eye on that. We don't want people using respirators that are not physically fit. It is a problem. It can cause significant issues with that individual. And I don't think would hope anyone's not, reckless enough to wear a respirator when it is causing problems to the respiratory system, because it will cause lightheadedness. It's an extra burden on that person. They may not be able to do their job as safe. So those are the considerations we have to take in before we decide who's going to do what in terms of wearing these respirators. And then there's a fit test that needs to get done. Again, we're not going to go into the detail here, but a fit test is required, and it must be done by a competent and qualified person. What else we got here? We got cleaning it. Respirator cleaning is pretty straightforward. Some companies have dishwashers designed for respirators. I think that's a good idea. IDLH, supplied air, and again, that's going to be something that would absolutely be site specific. Those are for high risk environments, rescue training, and that sort of thing. This concludes our training. There's other things that we can go into that really are more site specific and can get into the nitty gritty of the training. But each of you have to have your own training program, your own documented program. Training must be done at least annually, if not more frequent, depending on what you're doing. And I appreciate each of you. As I said, this is not an exhaustive training module. This is kind of an introduction, what I need to do, giving you some direction on how to manage this. And really the overall intent is to put some, a little bit of anxiety in you so that you will take action, because this is something not to mess around with. We don't want people wearing respirators that shouldn't be. We don't want respirators being worn that are for the wrong type of process, or just not wearing respirators. That's even more common. So we want to make sure we get home at the end of the day. If you're not doing any of this and you're like, I don't know what to do, I want to do the right thing, then call me. I will be more than happy to help you. We want to make sure everybody works safe and gets home at the end of the day, because that's what it's all about. Not just get home at the end of the day, but enjoy your job. Enjoy what you're doing. You know, I just checked the Fed OSHA website a couple days ago, and I was reading through the people that have passed away from various types of work-related fatalities in it. I do that every now and then because I want to be reminded. People are still dying on the job every day, not just every other day or a couple days a week or whatever. It's every day. Just about every day there's a fatality in the U.S. and they're primarily mostly falls, exposure to chemicals, gunshots. So there's a lot of fatalities still occurring, and each one of them could be prevented. Each of them could be prevented by education, training, accountability, and responsibility. And so that's ROI's purpose and of our existence, is to help you, navigate through all these requirements. So God bless each of you. Thank you for listening and watching, and I hope you want to subscribe to us and put some comments in there. I I am not just focused on doing these training videos. We do interviews, and I hope to interview a business owner in the next couple weeks, and maybe another attorney, maybe another OSHA inspector. If you're a business owner and you would like to be interviewed, give me a call. Let's make it happen. I'd love to get some insight from a business owner on how to navigate through these safety requirements and keeping their people safe. All right, God bless you and have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you later.